Yeah, 1 2 1 2.
Hey yo, AC.
1 2 1 2. Mic check. Hey, can y'all hear me out there? Hey.
Against all odds. 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 Against all odds.
The podcast.
Shout out to Rock on the Detroit Lions, man. My pride.
All right, good morning. It is Wednesday, man. Already halfway through the week of this major heat wave that we've been in here in, across the country, but up here in Michigan, man. We're getting into the last of the 100-degree days, and I can't wait, man. It's got to cool down a little bit, but nothing's going to be cool this morning. We're going to heat up. We've got some action-packed news, rumors, all sorts of good stuff for you guys this morning. So welcome into the Rise and Grind Morning Show. We'll be joined by Riley here in just a moment. And on today's schedule, man, we're going to talk about AI is making its way to the NFL. Now, this one is a little bit scary, I think, but also ever evolving, right? And we're going to talk about the conversation of how this is going to impact coaches, how this is going to impact plays on the field, and what else, the possibilities is what else, right? What else can they do with AI in the NFL? And I think sky's the limit. Pat McAfee gets petty. He canceled somebody. I didn't realize this, but reading an article again, found out that Pat McAfee got petty. So we'll talk about that between Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter getting canceled. So there's that. The NFL does get involved in contract disputes and possible collusion. This is something that I've been talking about for a while. Matter of fact, when I just spoke about the running backs, about 2 weeks ago, I had mentioned that at some point I felt like the NFL was trying to limit contracts for running backs. So came across this. We're going to talk about that this morning. Detroit Lions potentially getting a huge salary cap boost. What does that mean? And Sam Laporta getting blessed by the Pope. Is he going to have a breakout season? We'll do all that and more when we get back here in just a few moments. Riley, what's happening, man? We got a little music to get us going, I guess. Let me turn that off. What's happening?
Good morning, man. It's like you said, hey, it's Wednesday. Man, these days go by so damn fast. I say it every time, but you said on Off the Cuff last night that itch for football is, does it ever really go away for us? I don't think it does, but we are 4 or 5 weeks out from having a preseason game to break down. And then another, month from there, and then it'll be the real thing, and the games will start counting. So football is just around the corner, and ready to start Wednesday off with Rocked On Detroit Lions.
That's right, man. I'm actually been enjoying having a couple of days to get my life back in order. I'm getting my energy back, if you can't tell. Getting a little extra Z's, some days, but I'm excited, man. I think that football is right around the corner, but talking about it every day, does it really remove the love for football when you talk about it every day? The answer is no. And someone actually asked me that question, like, don't you just get sick of it? Don't you get sick of, how can you, when you love football and it is part of your family, it's part of your fabric of your family. Growing up with it, which I spoke about in the interview with Cerebral Palsy Gamer, which he ended up dropping yesterday. I think it was yesterday or the day before, Monday. He dropped the full version, the non-edited version. The edited version will come out at some point. Small delay, I guess. So I'm excited to see the edited version. So when I came into the screen, normally, like when you come into the screen with me, you know that you're not recording.
Right. Yeah, I saw.
But we were recording. So I didn't know he was not going to have me in the back office. But anyway, interesting.
Yeah, jumped right in. No,
yeah, so you make sure that you know that you're going to be on or live, right? Because you never know what you could say, which I'm never worried about what I say, but it is what it is. So,
yeah, no, I saw a lot of people in the members chat that we have that, you know, people will listen to it. I'm like, oh, I can't wait. So I got about 10 minutes in because when I got home last night, you went live, did the off the cuff. And so I had to, kind of pick what I was going to use my allotment for entertainment on for the night. So I've got to finish that interview. But anybody that doesn't know, that's how I met Will. I also did an interview for him or with him, and great person to interview. A lot of good knowledge and wisdom there. And yeah, I'm excited to listen to the rest of that interview. And he's a Packers fan, so we know Eric was probably excited about that.
Don't fill up my head any more than it already is, right? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, it was good to do it with a Packers fan too, because you could tell that, I mean, he's a consummate professional. There was zero animosity towards each other. It was just two guys having a conversation, and I thought he asked really good questions. I didn't know any of the questions ahead of time. So they're just real, raw, authentic, answers. And, more importantly, it's extending that olive branch to each other, right? And working, across the aisle, so to speak, with other content creators, which I find fun. I think it's great. Give me just 1 second while I'm going to share this. So Riley, if you want to talk about anything NFL news to get us rolling, let me get a couple of things shared real quick, and then I'll jump into my sheet.
Yeah, that sounds great. I have mostly Lions stuff kind of queued up. Let me just take a minute here and read off, and I want to give some shout outs to some people that are already here in this morning. Trace, as always, first one in. She even beats me on the mornings when I'm coming on the show. Maureen, Mr. Detroit City. We've got Brandy Coffee. Brandy, how long are we from the opening kick? You probably, I think she has a timer on. Tia the Hunt. And let's see, Bobby May. Good morning, Will. Bobby from Delaware, Lions fan for 50 years. It's been a journey in Eagles country.
I bet.
Very interesting, Bobby.
I bet. 50 years in Philly? Or how many years in Philly?
Yeah, it's a good question. And 50 years.
I'll see you in Philly, by the way. Megan and I were just talking about it last night or the night before, whenever it was. The games that we're really going to try to make this year. I don't know what I'm going to do with these trips again this year. It's one of those things. If people don't get deposits in, it's like I'm not going to extend. Maybe next year I'll extend myself, but not this year. We're going to be building a new house, and I'm not going to put $100,000 out there to secure a bunch of tickets and stuff. It's just I'm not going to do that. So
yeah, a lot of money.
And what sucks is that there's another company doing it that I guess it is joined with the Lions, and their prices are literally $1,000 more per seat for me versus what I was doing, which my seats are no different, if not better. And I think it's a better experience personally. That's because they're trying to make money. I'm trying to provide an experience. There's a big difference there. No shade at the Lions or anybody. Just saying, why so expensive?
Mm-hmm.
Why so expensive? So anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. And
good, man.
As far as members this morning, trying to get the membership up. Biggest reason is we're going to give away training camp tickets. And if you're a member, you're going to get your first crack at it. We're going to do members only stream where we're going to give away tickets. And then I do want to get this game show going. So quick announcement, kind of bad news. I was going to wait to do this. Haven't had another conversation with Corey about it, but long and short of it is Corey can't be on the show all the time. Spurts here and there. Biggest reason is giving his opinions on things may rub players the wrong way, and Ahmed has to have a relationship with these guys. So I think it's the professional approach to maybe tamp down what you're going to do, how loud you're going to be. Lions are kind of involved in it too, the way I understand it. Wanted to make sure that Ahmed doesn't have any more pressure than he needs. So I'm all for that because I want Ahmed to succeed, right? I want the Lions to succeed. We don't need a rift in the locker room. And I don't think Corey said anything off target. I don't think he said anything wrong. But there was a couple of things that were flying around that he was just being a fan of, and I guess it didn't sit well. So he's not going to be able to be on the show all the time, but he'll be around here or there. And maybe as the season gets going, we'll do some more things with him. So and I'm not going to say how I really feel about it because I love Corey. I think he's a good dude, but I think the way that it was handled by a certain organization was not good. But it is what it is. I want Ahmed to be successful. So we'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, 100%.
So All right, you didn't get into a topic. Let me get my sheet open because I want to get off and running this morning quickly. I'm supposed to be in Cleveland. I don't think I'm going to make it. Let's do this AI coming to the NFL. So this one was kind of shocking to me this morning.
Yeah, you kind of hit on it a little bit last night and off the cuff, and something that's been kind of percolating in my mind ever since I saw it too, because AI is just taking over just about everything, right? So
actually, Riley, you're going to have to do something for us because I got to take my dog out real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Come on, bub.
All right, guys. I always have envisioned these scenarios. Okay, if Will just drops out, and I can run. Am I going to be nervous? No, I'm going to be cool. We got this. I'm going to read off some more of your comments because we obviously appreciate you guys being here. If I don't say your name, drop something in the chat. I want to make sure we give everyone a shot. Corey Murphy, King SJ, we see you all the time. Good to see you again. David Napier, as much as I don't like it, their job is to make Sheila money. That is true. Let's see here. Sleepy's World, what up, y'all? Good to see you, man. How's everybody doing this morning? Drop us in the chat where you are from, unless you're trying to be discreet about that. But I think everybody is from Michigan, and then I'm out here in Utah. Let us know where you guys are all from. I think we got Will back in the saddle.
Yeah, so normally he sleeps all day, but I guess not today. So AI coming to the NFL, man, could this really transform the game? I think so. I think so, especially when we get into, I guess, the crux of what this article is telling us. Let me make sure that I can get it loaded up so we can kind of go through it.
David is from Granville. Is that in Michigan?
Yeah, that's right down the road from, 30 minutes for me.
Yeah, Michael Garrity, sad to hear Corey won't be here as much. Yeah, for sure. But I think, as Will said, hopefully we'll see him around. Great guy. Absolutely love having him around, and is what it is. But we'll keep rolling and keep building. And like I said here at the start, we are like a month away from football, so exciting times. And it looks like Corey's dad is in here. Says thank you for understanding.
100%, Mr. Mahdi, 100%. Like, it's the team is more important, right? And that's what we're here for, right? I don't ever want to be an issue. And like I said, Corey never said anything wrong, but I think it could be perceived wrong. Let me put it to you this way. Let's just say someone has a take about a player, and that player has to have a relationship with Ahmed, right? That could get strained. We don't want that. We don't want that. So Ahmed has enough pressure right now, being a 6th-round draft pick, some other things I won't discuss. He just let him fly, man. I'm excited to see him fly. So, I really appreciate you still being in here and watching us. That just tells us how important you guys are, but professional 100% of the way, right? All right, so AI coming to the NFL. I started touching on this last night, but this is a different subject, Riley. It's totally different. AI, last night's discussion was the fact that Lions fans, NFL fans are getting lied to because there's a lot of AI stuff out there. There's fake sites, whether it's Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, I don't care what social media platform. But now .coms or .biz or .uk, a lot of stuff coming out of Nigeria and Africa, even the United Kingdom, and they're just clickbait. That's all it is, and it's fake stories. But this is different. This is how the NFL is going to add AI to what they're going to be doing. So let me get into this from The Athletic. Josh Kendall wrote this last night, or yesterday morning, excuse me. And it starts with, I don't know why he throws us back to 1968, talking about Stanley Kubrick released 2001, A Space Odyssey. I can't say that I ever watched that movie. And says that it creeped out an entire country with the idea of a future controlled by artificial intelligence. How did they know that, right? In the summer of 2025, Zach Robinson is facing the idea of watching football and discussing strategy with the computer. And he's a little creeped out too. And that's exactly what's about to happen. So the 38-year-old Atlanta Falcons offensive coordinator has worked as an analyst with PFF before starting his coaching career in 2019, a stint that convinced him of the value and potential of advanced analytics. Riley, I don't know why I don't see you in here, but I need to bring you in here. One sec. Oh boy. Huge. There we go. Gotta love how OBS doesn't keep things the same on every scene. All right, you're in here now. Now I can hear you.
Golden.
All right. So anyway, moving forward, essentially what it's talking about is now it says there's a wide gulf between the math used to optimize fourth down decisions and a voiced AI agent telling you to look out for the weak side linebacker while you're sitting alone in your office on a Tuesday night. So I guess what I'm deducing from this is if you're creating a game plan, Riley, and you now have an AI assistant that is looking at what you're building, and it's literally telling you, hey, you got a problem over here. You've got to watch out for the weak side linebacker on this play, the way it's designed. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Is it going to make you overcomplicate what you're doing, overthink what you're doing? Is it going to take what you've been doing your entire life and confuse the heck out of it? You know what I mean? Like, how do you see that being an immediate problem or not?
Yeah, it's a great question because I don't know. Sometimes I envision if I were a coach, if I was a head coach, would I lean more into just what the eye tells me? Would I lean more into what the numbers say, what the analytics say? And you like to feel like you'd have a good balance of the two, but I don't know on this. I mean, I think the information is worth considering, but I don't think it can become the atlas or the roadmap or the gospel for anybody to go by, if that makes sense. I think you still have to have the human element. I feel like that should override whatever this is spitting out.
I would say so too, but I think what people are growing accustomed to right now is that they're starting to listen to AI. And I've had this conversation with people that I know. I think the older generations, even our generation, is starting to fall prey to what AI is telling you. I will tell you all definitively right now, AI is not 100% correct. Grok is not 100% correct. Copilot, Gemini, all of them, ChatGPT, all of them. They're not all correct. They largely have a lot of great information. But if you do not read what you are given, you're going to probably put out some false information. And I see this being a bigger problem for people using it for articles. We don't necessarily use it for articles. We can use it to help mix up information. Me, myself, personally, I'll use AI to help me with, finding certain topics or reorganizing some thoughts or helping me rewrite something better with better grammar. Things like that, right? But if you just rely on AI, man, you could be down a rabbit hole in a hurry. You could ruin your career in less than an afternoon because you might put out something that is totally false, and it could ruin you. So anyway, Ryan Paganetti got his job in part because of artificial intelligence. He was hired by Las Vegas Raiders head coach Pete Carroll in March as the team's head coach research specialist. But the job may be better understood as AI coordinator. That's funny, right? That's kind of funny. Quote, I don't think that when I was hired, the idea was this is our AI guy, but there is no doubt whatsoever that I'm going to be using AI every single day and probably in an increasing, larger amounts every month that goes by. In a league, end quote, in a league which teams are constantly looking for an edge, the next big one won't be coming through the draft or free agency. Paganetti believes artificial intelligence tools are on the verge of transforming how coaches think about the game and do their jobs. And maybe even which coaches still have those jobs in a decade. And maybe even which coaches still have those jobs in a decade. Another quote. It almost might be a blockbuster moment where some coaches, their roles are replaced entirely. What? Paganandi said that that's an issue in all sorts of industries where AI is just better and more accurate. I think that it is going to happen with the football industry to some degree. Okay. I mean, I agree and disagree where you're saying the AI is better and more accurate. Largely, AI has a ton of info that you don't have, right? It makes you 10 times smarter, if not 1,000 times smarter if you're using AI. Again, you have to reread, you have to vet it, or it could be wrong. I see this being a problem. I mean, number one, we just heard that, or my number one, issue with this is we just heard that Amazon is potentially going to replace like almost all of its employees with AI and robots. What are those millions of employees going to do? Right? How are those families going to feed themselves? It's not like there's just a couple million jobs open tomorrow, making whatever kind of money they're making, probably north of 50K. I mean, that's a huge chunk of change. I mean, in today's world, I mean, just to kind of sidetrack this for a moment, in Michigan, I read this the other day, a single person needs to make $87,000 now to survive and have a fairly comfortable life, to be able to save for retirement, take a vacation, things of that. And 87 grand. Tell me how many jobs are hiring right now for 87 grand a year, or jobs that you can even be making that kind of money within 5 to 10 years. Not many. And if you had to go to college and get, a 5 or 6 year degree to get it, well, you're paying off 150 grand in student loans for the next 20 years too. So it's crazy where we are in today's landscape. And I think that with AI being, the problem that it is to a degree, I mean, there's good parts to it. There's bad parts to it. But I think that if they let this thing fully run wild in the NFL, it may not even be a game that we enjoy. Could you see that being an issue, Riley?
Yeah, absolutely. It can. I mean, it's kind of like on The Office. I'm sure most people have seen The Office. I'm thinking of that episode where, Dwight and Michael Scott are in the car, they're driving, and he's relying on the GPS, and it's telling him, turn here, turn here, turn here. And then it tells him to turn on a road that very clearly leads right into a path of water. And he's saying, stop. One of the two is saying, and he's like, no, it knows, the GPS knows. And he's looking at him like, you're literally about to take us into this, puddle of water here, or body of water, a lot bigger than just a puddle. But yeah, I mean, I think football is such a humane game to me, where I guess what I mean by that is the emotions that you experience with it. And I do think and love to see kind of the turn towards the analytical side of things. Hey, the numbers say just go for it here, or the numbers say you're better off just kicking a field goal here in this position, or whatever the case is on it. But to rely on AI to have it start replacing people, I mean, I think you got to keep the people involved. I think the people are what make things work, and that's easy to say because I'm a person, but I feel like
Are you sure you're not AI this morning? You're just a robot?
I'm pretty sure, man. I did a check this morning, and I'm flesh and bone, and I'm all human being. But it's interesting, and then do they have names? The Lions have just released such and such as D coordinator. They're bringing in, whatever you want to call it, artificial intelligence as their new coordinator. I think you got to keep the people at the forefront of things, I guess would be the best way.
I get what you're saying. I mean, there's the human element, right? There's the human element to everything. There's a human element. I mean, there's always been, but there's a human element to football. And I think to keep football real, you need that human element. Now, one of the other things that this article was talking about was how Pete Carroll interviewed himself, and that AI was giving him an opportunity to interview himself, talking to himself through AI. So he was actually questioning his own person and being answered by his own person in return. Some of it does feel like science fiction, as he said. I get that, but AI is around the corner for us, meaning the NFL. I mean, I would ask of you all to just give AI a shot for a moment and ask it to interview you. I've done similar things like this. I have role played legal things. asked it to, kind of interrogate me, so to speak. I've used it for all different sorts of stuff. I mean, I communicate. So I have Copilot as one of my main icons on my phone. And no matter what I'm doing, I'm out in the garden the other day and I don't have the instructions to Miracle Grow all purpose, right? So I just asked Copilot, which we have names for each other now. It's deep. We got a relationship. And I'm like, hey, I need to know how many tablespoons of this stuff to how many gallons. And then these are outdoor plants. How much should I give each plant? And it literally told me everything. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go check the box. I'm going to walk my lazy ass up a half an acre. I'm going to go check the box. So I went up, checked the box. It was right. But at least it was right. And the only thing I don't like is you can talk to it, but it can't show something on the screen, right? It can't email you something. It can't pop up, direction or something on the screen, which I wish it could, so that you could verify it and vet it. But it was right. And so it would have saved me a bunch of time to just, keep hammering away at, I mean, you guys have heard, I got over 100 trees now that I planted in this backyard in the last year. Being able to get these things all fed, every week so they can grow like crazy. But it's using it for stuff like that, right? That I tend to use AI for more often, a lot less than other things. I'm sure, a lot of people use it for stuff like coding. I've used it for coding. I've used it to how to figure out, OBS stuff or, the right settings for things. There's a ton of things you can use it for, but football, man, I don't know how this would help football. Here's how I'm going to relate this to the Lions today. Would Dan Campbell change his fourth down calls because of AI? That's the first poll question of the day. Would Dan question himself and change his fourth down calls because of AI? What do you guys think?
That's a great question. And then you imagine the scenario, as you said, you've got a name for yours. So if Dan, instead of asking, Kelvin Shepard, or instead of asking John Morton, he just whispers something into, hey, Steve, or whatever creative name he's got for his thing. Do I go for it right here? And then it spits back, don't go for it, Dan. And then I think he kind of wince a little bit and then still go for it. I feel like Dan Campbell would. That's just my opinion, because he's blazed that trail. And that's one of the things I love about him as a head coach, even when it doesn't work, because it looks great when it does. And then you're pissed when it doesn't. I've been guilty of that. Jack Rumsey, my good buddy, can attest. I've said, take the points, kick the field goal. And then he goes for it and gets the first down. And I'm like, yeah, see, that's why I'm sitting on my couch. And that's why he's coaching.
Yeah. I would hate to think that it would change his mindset.
For sure.
But what if it made him, maybe this is wrong, double think himself, right? What if he was over analyzing? You get paralysis by analysis often.
Analysis paralysis, yeah.
Exactly. and I think that if he were to think twice about something, one, you don't have that kind of time. But what if it was a wrong move? What if they would have got that 4th and 11? And what if that would have been the change of the game? What if it changed the game? They win the game because of that call. But AI told you not to do it.
Mm-hmm. Would AI have said, go for it when they were playing Green Bay at home, when Montgomery needed, and remember Goff almost fell down. I think he did fall down, barely got the handoff to Montgomery, and he got the, 0.7 of a yard he needed or whatever it was to move the chains. To me, in the moment, I was take the points, confident in Bates. I'm already doing the math in my head. Okay, how far is he? And then I'm like, oh my gosh, he's really going to go for it. But how bad would it have been if they kicked the field goal, but then Green Bay went right down? They had plenty of time and they went for it. He did the same thing against the Chargers the year before at SoFi Stadium. It just, kind of just does his own thing with coaching. But I think he decided when he got the job, like, I'm just going to go and give it everything and lay it all out on the table and let the pieces fall where they will.
I think he's done a good job at it. I mean, he's gotten a lot of calls right. I think more right than anybody else in the NFL. But let's move off of this one. It's already 8:30. I don't want to get stuck on AI today. Interesting, though. Landscape of the NFL is changing. Riley, I don't have your sheet up, but do you have anything on NFL today? Did you say you didn't?
No, most everything I have is Lions related. So
okay. So let me pick up another one here on collusion by the NFL, potentially, allegedly. I'm not going to say that they are colluding, but this article was a little bit indifferent to that, I think, and maybe giving us a little bit of insight that the NFL is a little bit more involved. And when I say the NFL, I'm talking Roger Goodell and, the round table of 32. You've got 32 NFL owners. What are they doing? How are they colluding, so to speak, with each other, having, conversations that may or may not affect the future of players' salaries, the position. And if you remember, it was, 4 or 5 years ago maybe, that the running back position, for whatever reason, there was a lot of free agents and they weren't getting signed. And a lot of, teams are kind of dragging their feet. Players were not getting what they felt was commensurate to their body of work as far as pay. And it just felt like nobody was getting paid in that position. The numbers were starting to rise sharply, just like you're seeing right now. Defensive ends and wide receivers and quarterbacks, those numbers are rising fast. So at what point are we going to see the NFL put a hard stop to this and you don't see these guys getting paid? And or they try to rewind how much these guys are getting paid, largely, because salary cap is only so many dollars. It's only going to go up so many dollars a year. And we're going to touch on that in a moment too. Potential large increase to the Lions salary cap potential. But this was a collusion investigation that revealed how Russell Wilson upset the NFLPA's boss. Imagine that for a moment. The NFLPA's boss. So I'm not sure who the NFLPA's boss is. Is that Pablo Torre? Might be. And last year, the president of the NFLPA was Jalen Reeves-Maybin for the Detroit Lions. Now, he obviously wasn't involved, I don't believe, in any of this, but let me get this loaded up here.
Yeah, and then as you're doing that real quick, I wanted to give a shout out as well. I saw somebody had reminded us. Oh, it was Brandy. Happy birthday, Adam.
Oh, happy birthday, Adam. Adam Gakowski? Is that who it is?
Yeah. Adam Gakowski. I got sidetracked. Brandy asking if she can have this jacket. Sure. Send me an address. I'll send it to you. Happy birthday to you, Adam. A few of us have June birthdays. Mine was earlier this month, and then Will's coming up next month. We just know. Hey, you guys know when it's training camp coincides with Will's birthday.
Every year, man. Except for this year.
It
used to always be the 29th of July that was like the first day of training camp, it seemed like, or the first day available to season ticket holders, but obviously this year's a little bit earlier.
Yeah,
all right, let's roll in this article here talking about collusion investigation revealed how Russell Wilson upset the NFLPA boss. And I made some notes on this, so let me get my notes up and just kind of run through a little bit of a detailed breakdown here. I don't want to go through the whole thing, but in a nutshell, the quick overview is there's an ongoing investigation into the alleged collusion within the NFL that has revealed significant tensions between the Denver Broncos' former quarterback, Russell Wilson, and the NFL Players Association. The investigation particularly focused on Wilson's contract extension, the discussions in the summer of 2022. It also exposed broader implications regarding player negotiations and the dynamics between star athletes and their representatives. So some of the key points that were involved in this article simply said that the investigation into potential collusion among the NFL teams highlighted instances where Wilson's actions during contract negotiations kind of, I guess, set ablaze or at least put a microscope onto a broader situation, which is the NFL teams kind of colluding into what is happening with contracts. Now let's get into some of this article here. The NFLPA's grievance aimed at proving that NFL owners colluded to prevent other teams from matching the Browns' fully guaranteed Deshaun Watson extension. Extension did not produce a win. A ruling by an independent arbitrator earlier this year did not find sufficient evidence to determine collusion definitively occurred. That independent arbitrator's pockets are probably pretty full, yeah? But an investigation from a veteran reporter, Pablo Torre, I'm sorry, he's not the president, he's a reporter, revealed a trove of information regarding some recent quarterback negotiations and the fallout that they produced. The Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast's report addresses the Cardinals' 2022 Kyler Murray talks and the Ravens' first wave of Lamar Jackson negotiations. It also delves into the Broncos' seminal discussion with their then hopeful long-term quarterback solution, which was Russell Wilson. Now, the NFLPA could not ultimately prove collusion. The investigation featured system arbitrator Christopher Droney, who concluded via Pro Football Talk's Mike Florio, quote, there is little question that the NFL Management Council, with the blessing of the commissioner, Roger Goodell, encouraged the 32 NFL clubs to reduce guarantees in veteran contracts at the March 2022 annual owners meeting. You know what's hilarious about this, Riley? Do you remember just a few weeks ago, or maybe it was a month ago now, that I said that very thing? That it feels like when these owners get together at these meetings that there's a lot more involved in these. It's not just talking football. It's not just, talking about the rule changes and things of that, that are on the horizon. But this very thing, how can we drive prices down? How can we force players to take less? And this, according to Mike Florio, the alleged conspiracy is that at the NFL owners meetings in 2022, that all 32 clubs were pressured to reduce guarantees on veteran contracts. At some point, I think someone's going to blow the roof off of this. But what is your immediate thought when you hear that?
Yeah, for sure. It's if they've got here's what today's meeting's going to cover, there's more than one bullet point for sure. And obviously, it only works if everybody's in on it. And you've got to kind of create that environment that, hey, if you're not bought in, if you don't fall in line and do, kind of buy into this, then you are, rebelling against the system, I guess. Right. So obviously they all want to make as much as they can, have as much money in their pockets. And I think that it makes sense from a standpoint of it, you have to get everybody to kind of buy into it. But certainly, I do remember with the running back contracts, years ago, it was, man, what's changed? And that's part of why the Jahmyr Gibbs, pick was so questioned, because it's like, there's not as much value here. And even when he gets his extension coming up, what are they going to pay him? How much are they going to pay him? So
I think to interrupt, excuse me, I think the Saquon Barkley contract it's kind of reset the playing field a little bit.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah.
That's just one example, though. I mean, do you think it's going to continue in that direction, or is that just a one-off and the Jahmyr Gibbs maybe not touch $15 million a year?
Man, I think you've got to be like the best or second best running back in the NFL, and honestly, I think at this point it is Barkley and Gibbs. So I think Gibbs.
I believe that
Gibbs' agent is going to say, hey, no, you're not paying. Imagine if, I don't know off the top of my head what Saquon's making per year, but Gibbs isn't going to, settle for less, I'm sure. Why would he?
I would hope he doesn't. I mean, obviously I want him to stay in Detroit. And I don't think that Detroit would screw around with it. I don't think Detroit is anywhere close to these problems that are being alleged here with potential collusion with contracts. I don't think the Lions are going to involve themselves in that. I think that they're going to do it right. I think that they're going to manage their cap. And matter of fact, the fact that Brad Holmes is managing the cap as well as he is, and the rest of the, the contractual team behind him, I think that points that why would they be involved? You know what I mean? Like, they don't have a reason to be involved. Yeah, they've got some big contracts coming up. They've got some guys that they need to get signed, but they're doing it the right way. Now, for teams like the Browns or the Saints or other teams that always seem to be over market, right? Paying their players way too much. And then the next year they don't have any salary cap, or they're $30 million over the salary cap before league day or new league year. Those are the teams that I would worry about. All right, those are the teams that I would worry about being involved in any of this stuff, allegedly, right? I'm not saying that they are. Florio pointed this out. He said that through Tory, in Florio's pursuit. Now, remember, Florio's a former attorney. He says the NFLPA's collusion case is now public via Florio. A notable section of the case covers Wilson's testimony indicating he requested a fully guaranteed 7-year extension. First of all, who does Russell Wilson think he is? Isn't the dude like 36 years old? So you're telling me at 34 he was wanting to play through his 41st birthday? He's not even that good. He's really not. So anyway, he demands no one's going to pay that. He demands a fully guaranteed 7-year deal from the Broncos that covered around $50 million a year. So a $350 million contract. Then Rodgers had just moved the quarterback market to $50 million per year via his March 22 Packers deal. But the complex deal had been, as it turned out, designed to be traded rather than fully bringing the market to the $50 million price. It took until Jalen Hurts' that's weird to say. Jalen Hurts' April 2023 extension to move the barrier beyond $50 million. And then as we know now, $50 million is just kind of like the entry point, it seems like, for your top 15 quarterbacks in the league. So Wilson and the Broncos agreed on a chord just south of that place. Anyway, Wilson and the Broncos agreed on a 5-year, $245 million contract in September. The team's ownership change, approved in August of 2022, delayed an extension from becoming final, so it never happened. Wilson viewed the Broncos as getting cold feet regarding a fully guaranteed deal after acquiring him. So kind of funny that around the same time, you have these meetings, in that year, in 2022, and then this report comes out saying that there's possible collusion, that the NFL, is trying, in my opinion, driving prices down. I think that's all it is. They're trying to drive the prices down. I'll kind of end with this. I don't want to get too far reaching into this whole thing. I think that Wilson's case might be emblematic of the concerns that I think that, let me rephrase that. I think that Wilson's contract negotiations and his case may be emblematic of the potential issues that could be happening behind the scenes, or the potential collusion that could be happening behind the scenes. But then the Deshaun Watson thing, that one made no sense to me, how that guy got a fully guaranteed contract. But I think it was that contract that really started to stir the pot. And teams looking at this like, you can't do that. Like, we cannot be giving these guys this kind of money. This hurts the NFL. This hurts all 32 teams because one team screwed it up. And that's all it takes, is one team to go and overpay for a player that then doesn't do anything with that contract, doesn't succeed at all, gets in trouble legally, but you already screwed the pooch. Every team is now paying for what you just did. That part makes sense. Be smarter with your contracts. Don't overpay. But colluding to pay the guys less, colluding to make sure the guys remain in free agency, potentially or allegedly, I think that that's the issue, is that too many guys are going to remain in free agency because their contracts, they're just not going to get done because of whatever's going on behind the scenes. Final take, agree, disagree? What do you think?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think it was you that made some, mention of that too, where, I heard something very recently about, the players are going to stay as far away from the negotiations as they can. They've got too much other stuff on their mind, and, preparing to be a professional football player. We were even talking about it with Ahmed. There's so many things that go into that. And obviously he's just a rookie, but you wonder for these agents as they go to these negotiations, what those conversations are like. You love to be a fly on the wall to kind of hear, the back and forth numbers and how they eventually come to an agreement. But yeah, a couple of bad apples. You look at the Wilson contract, and obviously certainly the Deshaun Watson contract. That's about as bad as it gets, but then another upcoming quarterback's going to use that as his barometer and say, hey, I'm not if he just got paid this, I'm not going to take anything less than, X amount of dollars. So, it's kind of an interesting thing how it shakes out.
Not sure what David Napier is asking in the chat. It says, make sure you guys say you have no opinion on the matter, and this is the repeating of an article. There you go. We said it. I don't know if you meant that for us. Or he says, or the no fun league might get their feelings hurt. Oh, I got you. So from a legal standpoint, like I said, I said allegedly, I don't know, half a dozen times in there at least. It is an article. Matter of fact, I'll drop the article in the chat here. I think this was, let's see, who wrote it again? It's on Yardbarker.
It was by Sam Robinson.
Yeah, so everyone should be able to view it since it's on Yardbarker. I'll drop it into the chat. I'll also put it into today's description, where I tend to drop some stuff in there. Like today's headlines is usually what I put in there, or at least I started to, and then I'll drop some of the links in there. That way you can always find them, and at least they're referenced.
Yeah, it's great. I like even bringing them on the screen. Seems like a new...
No, I used to do that all the time.
Yeah.
That's just the way that I feel is best to do it, but some days if we're doing our own stuff, then we don't put stuff on the screen, right?
Sure.
All right, so let me see what else I got for NFL. All right, Pat McAfee. I didn't know this was happening. I guess I didn't pay attention to it. So Pat McAfee got petty, apparently, and that, at least that's what I'm taking from this article. This is from The Athletic. It was written by Andrew Markin on June 12. So a couple weeks ago, where he says that Pat McAfee's style is born from the WWE DNA, and McAfee is a character with traces of Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, and Roman Reigns. Only he's real, and he's outlandish. He's impulsive, and he lives in his own McAfee-sphere. McAfee-sphere? I don't even know how you say that. Anyway, McAfee's unpredictable nature in writing, his script is intoxicating. For his audience, like the WWE stars, he can have his hand out to shake on an agreement and then quickly pull it away. In recent weeks, McAfee has touted up to something season. It's a hashtag, up to something season. I haven't seen that, don't know what it's about, but he put it on his social media feeds, which is the term he uses when he's thinking about new deals. While he is currently under contract with ESPN and WWE, the constraints of signed agreements have never stopped him. Interesting. Is he going to leave ESPN? I doubt it. But this is what he did. He essentially banned an ESPN insider, Adam Schefter, from his program since March of this year. And I guess it makes sense because he kept seeing Ian Rappaport on the show and no longer Shefty. But it wasn't making sense to me. I just figured, everyone's busy doing their own thing. They couldn't show up. What happened is it goes on to say Schefter hasn't been on the Pat McAfee show since that month's free agency deadline. Sources said that the main issue stemmed from one incident, that on one afternoon, McAfee wanted Schefter on his program. Schefter was appearing on ESPN2 free agency special that day. He was unable to make it. So in turn, when Shefty used to be a regular, he was banished from the show and has been ever since. And now a McAfee sidekick, Ty Schmidt, has remained a regular on Schefter's podcast. They're going back and forth, tit for tat, right? Schefter's rival NFL Network's Ian Rappaport now has been on McAfee's show instead. Prior to McAfee program, airing on ESPN, Rappaport had been a regular. So kind of funny that, now you have Peter Schrager appearing as well, which, Peter Schrager's, he's always everywhere. Here's a quote. Pat and his show are thriving on ESPN. This is from the president of content, Burke Magnus. He says, we are very pleased with the partnership. That said, in the nearly 3 years since Pat has brought this show to our platforms, we've continuously seen those out there that are seemingly obsessed with wanting to see Pat fail on ESPN. This rumor is just the latest example of that. Pat and his show continue to break the mold and reach new audiences, and we look forward to the continued success together. By the way, if you guys didn't know this, Pat is not an ESPN employee. He has a contract with ESPN, but he is not an ESPN employee. It's kind of funny that he's banishing Shefty. According to the report, though, the one guy there says that that's not the case. It's just a rumor. Any thoughts on this?
Yeah, the interesting politics of things, and I saw something the other day, and it's related, at least in my mind, and I hope it makes sense, because it was a random channel. The video popped up on my feed, so I clicked it. I started listening to it. They're talking about edge rushers, and I just checked the comments, and it was an anonymous account, no picture, some, very generic name that wasn't a person's name, just, Blue Dragon or whatever he had his thing. He said, Rocked On Detroit Lions just agrees with everything that Brad Holmes says.
Who said this?
Just a totally random person. I hadn't even talked to you about this yet. Before we got going today, I was going to say, oh man, I saw this. The thing that I thought was funny on that is, okay, so if you're saying that this channel or that Will Rock is pro Brad Holmes, it's not hard to be pro Brad Holmes. It's not hard to be pro of the GM of a 15-2 team. If you're trying too hard to disagree, then that's a different thing. That's what you're doing. So call it what it is. But in my mind, as you were kind of reading through this, I was reminded of that. The politics of things, and Pat McAfee's obviously has a great show, and seems like I don't watch it every day,
I don't know how that mixed, but let me throw this out there. I usually say what's happening before it's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Do I not?
You do.
Brad Holmes comes out and says things after the fact that I've already said it. Not saying that he's saying things because he's heard me say something. Not saying that at all. Probably he's never seen this show in his life. The point that I'm trying to make is the research that I do, the way that I analyze the team, the analytics, the stats, everything that I get into, I look at it from the approach as if I were running the team, what would I do? It just so happens that 90% of the things that Brad does are what I would do too. I was the one that said before the free agency period, the last 2 seasons, what was going to happen? No defensive end. Before the draft, no defensive end in the first round. I thought that we would get a defensive end if Aiden's contract was extended. But I also said I'm not thinking his contract's going to be extended. They're going to pick up the 5th-year option. I said all of this stuff way before Brad did it and way before it became public news. So you might want to do a little bit of research and be careful of what you say, because I get a lot right. I'm not up here pounding my chest and blowing the horn for my flowers. The people that watch this show know what I talk about. I get a lot right. I get some things wrong, and I'm okay with that. I got 26 out of 32 draft picks right on draft day, Riley. You watched it, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do I do that if I'm just blowhard for somebody else and just agreeing with whatever they do? That's research, is what that is.
Right. Yeah.
I got Tyleek Williams right. I got Tate Ratledge right? I got a lot of draft picks for the Lions right. 3 years in a row, I've had more than 10 correct picks, either before the draft, written on an article before the draft, or said before the draft pick was taken. That's not me just agreeing. That is me seeing through the trees. And again, that's why I love doing this. There's going to be years that I'm totally wrong. Would I have taken a defensive end early in this draft if there was one available? Yeah, only if it was Shamar Stewart. That would have been the only one that I think that I would have taken early. Outside of that, I think we just got extremely lucky with Ahmed being available in the 6th, which, you know what? That chip is going to be on his shoulder, and I think that he's going to come out and just crush it this year when he gets an opportunity. So, all right, what do you have up for us today with Lions news?
Yeah. So yeah, hopefully that made that gap. I couldn't get that article to pull up here on the on Pat McAfee, but again, my mind just went straight back to that point of just the interesting kind of politics thing. I'm sure you weren't sitting here agreeing with everything that Brad or Bob Quinn did and Matt Patricia did. It's not
hated it all.
Yeah,
couldn't stand it.
Yeah,
I couldn't stand those two clowns. And it's funny because every year you have conversations. Being in a club and having club members and season tickets, you have a lot of conversations with guys, right? You have a lot of conversations at the tailgates, and you hear differing stories from everybody, differing opinions, I should say, from everybody. What I always hear from the old heads, right? The older crowd is, this is the year, right? That was a great pick. This is amazing. This is we're gonna go all the way. You keep hearing that, and I'm thinking to myself, do I say something or do I not say something? All right, I'll say something. And no, we're not going. Matter of fact, we're probably gonna lose every game because they didn't do anything right that they should have. On the surface, it may look good, but underneath it all, I mean, we're pretty much eating a poop sandwich here. And that's what happened every year. I couldn't stand it. And it got bad because there'd be times where we're getting them in straight up pretty bad arguments about it. Because there's some guys that are really sold on the fact that, they could do no wrong. But I think that's where we are now, is that Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell really can't do much wrong because they've done so much right. I'm just excited to see how far it goes this year. But I'm not going to continue, or I'm not going to not continue to support them until they give me a reason not to. Unfortunately, there's just some people out there that don't support them no matter what. Those are called same old Lions fans. They don't support anything. Unless they get their defensive end and spend $35 million. Those are the people, in my opinion, that just don't understand how it works. There's a reason why you grab defensive tackles. We've talked about it so many times. And again, I talked about it way before Brad did what he did. But there's a reason why you do the things that he's doing. It's just different than what we've done in the past. Right or wrong, Riley, were we not the team that it seemed like always picking early in the draft before 2021? And what did we do most of the time? We went out and picked the biggest, noisiest name out there. Not the right football player. We just picked the biggest name we could, is what we did. And how well did that work? It didn't.
Yeah, it didn't.
It didn't. Outside of Calvin Johnson and Matthew Stafford, I mean, did we really take anyone else in the first round that ever really worked out?
No, I mean, you had a player like Ndamukong Suh, but that was, for as good as he was on the field, that was I'll never forget I think it was the Thanksgiving game. He stomped on the dude from the Packers, and he's trying to tell the ref on the sideline, like, no, I was just putting my foot down. Like,
I was putting my foot down on his throat.
Yeah, I didn't know he was there. It's like, dude, it's and it was awesome player, amazing talent, but
because I mean, let's follow this. We'll go off beat for just a second. Let's follow this through for a moment.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go back to 2020. We take Jeff Okudah. Stupidest decision ever.
I will say, when that pick was made, I was very, very excited. So I can't sit here and say I wasn't. But that was a lot of that was honestly because I'm such a big Matthew Stafford fan that I thought if they took a quarterback, the writing was already on the wall. They weren't going to be a good team. But I was trying to convince myself, finally they're going to get a stud cornerback. We had Darius Slay, but obviously I thought I just didn't want it to be a quarterback. Well, they could have taken Justin Herbert. Anyway,
you know what? We're going to have to go back and redraft some of these. I think that's going to have to be a segment because you took Jeff Okudah in the first. I have to believe in that year, and I don't remember who came out that year as far as running backs. Taking DeAndre Swift in the second round. I have to imagine there's probably a better running back, but back then, not a lot of people were taking running backs early. But TJ Hawkinson in 2019, in the first round at number 8, really? Look, is he a good football player? Yes. Is that what the team needed? No. Absolutely not. Frank Ragnow was probably the smartest decision that I've seen that Quinn Tricia era do. I mean, or make, excuse me. How about Gerard Davis in 2017? I mean, at pick 21, we take a freaking linebacker. This was not smart. There has to be, other players that were available. And again, I can't remember every player in the draft that year, but we're gonna unpack it. And then tease Tabor in the second round. Come on. All right, Taylor Decker was a good pick in 2016. But Laken Tomlinson in 2015, how did that work out for us? At pick 28.
Mm-hmm.
All right, come on. Eric Ebron, again, a tight end in the first round at pick 10.
And Aaron Donald went a pick maybe before, right? I think they passed on Aaron Donald.
Yeah. How about Ezekiel Anza in 2013 at pick 5?
And he wasn't even starting at BYU until like the very end or his last season. Now he's a great player briefly. Actually ran into him at a Target store once. Massive human being. But
I mean, he was a decent football player, but again, he played football for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Before entering the NFL.
He came here to play basketball. Right. And then the football coaches convinced him to try out for the team.
No, Darius Slay in the second round was a great pick. Riley Reif in 2012. I mean, it was a good pick, but at pick 23, I don't know. Maybe there was something better or different. Nick Fairley in 2011 and Ndamukong Suh in 2010. Obviously, Ndamukong Suh was the right pick at pick number 2 overall. But Nick Fairley at 13 in the first round, I'm not so sure. Matthew Stafford in 2009 was the right pick. Goster Cherilus was a pretty good tackle in 2008. That was a pretty good pick. Calvin Johnson, obviously the right pick. We've only had one Hall of Famer since 2007. One. Now, I don't know how many Hall of Famers other teams have had since then. How about Ernie Sims in 2006? Again, these are just bigger names that are doing well in college. But I don't think that they flushed it all out to see how these players are going to correlate to the NFL. Right? Mike Williams, really, in 2005, and Roy Williams before that.
Yeah, that was a string of like 3 receivers and
Charles Rogers before that. Yeah, crazy. All right, let's move forward. What do you got?
All right, let's see here. If we go, do you have my page here? Would you be able to pull up the article and put it on the screen? If not, I can.
No, just let me get it open. I thought I had it open. I guess I don't. One sec.
Well, Will's pulling that up. James Hillman says, I don't know about everybody else, but in my work, most fans just don't have all the accurate information. Absolutely true. Jay Cruzen, good to see you, man. King SJ, I think I shouted you out a little bit earlier, but it's good to see everybody. If you guys have not, how many likes do we have? If you have not, please do hit that like for us. It helps the channel grow.
Yeah, the biggest thing is comments afterwards, like really getting into the comments. Everybody in the chat today, when you're done, please just go to the comments. Even if you just type 2 letters, hi, hello, what's up, anything in the comments will help. Anything at all. It would be great to see some more comments in there.
Just a lion emoji, even.
Anything will help. It helps the algorithm. And just so you understand, I'm kind of out of the algorithm right now because I just had so much going on. I haven't been able to get videos done. And even when I do get them done, I don't even post them half the time. So, all right, I got your sheet up. Which one here? The case for and against?
Yeah, if we could pull that up, have a little discussion here about the NFC North. This was Kevin Patra from the from NFL.com's official site here.
Hey, just give me 2 seconds.
So this one was interesting too, because a little bit of a case for, case against. They left the Vikings off of this for some reason. Actually, no, they're at the very bottom of this, but I sourced from our good friend Jason Harmon a couple of comments that I'll use for Minnesota. But we know, guys, that the NFL or the NFC North last year was obviously extremely competitive division. In fact, it was It was a historically good season last year. 4 teams combined for the best winning percentage for a single division in NFL history.
That's crazy.
Yeah, 662 was the winning percentage. That beat out the previous record, which was held by the NFC West in 2013. The Lions, Bears, Vikings, and Packers combined for a plus 38 or 384 scoring differential, and they won a combined 45 games. So, and there's reason to think that each team, so as you see here on the screen, the black and blue division is back. NFC rolled through the 2024 regular season, combined for the best winning percentage. And then, as I just said, they had 45 victories amongst the 4 of them. Now, I did get, as I said, I asked our friend Jason Harmon, big Vikings fan, who I think is just arriving to Minnesota today. His family's moved out there from Arizona. So I know he's excited to get out there because his wife and kids have not seen the place yet. So he's excited to get their reaction to it. But I asked him, I said, hey man, I need you to tell me from a Vikings fan perspective, tell me why and give me your unbiased take as to why you would feel confident that the Vikings are going to win the NFC North this year. He gave me a few reasons. Number one, the Vikings got better at the weakest points on the roster, which were interior offensive line, D tackle, and red zone running back play. They acquired Jordan Mason. Number two, Sam Darnold had a great year, but he lived and died by deep balls. J.J. McCarthy is a much better thrower on short to intermediate routes, which should open up more options, especially in the red zone. McCarthy's stats may not be as explosive, but the impact could be more consistent. Number three, J.J. McCarthy's redshirt year may be just what he needed to learn the ins and outs of the offense and study opposing schemes. This kid literally watched film and took notes on every NFL defender. I don't think there is a person, a fan, you won't find somebody that is a bigger fan of a player than Thor Nystrom and Jason Harmon for J.J. McCarthy. Number four.
Hold on. Let's pick apart some of these. So go back to number two.
Number two, Darnold had a great year, but he lived and died by deep balls. He said J.J. McCarthy is a much better thrower on short to intermediate routes.
Yeah, so that was number three, right? Talking about J.J. McCarthy?
Number 2 and 3, he's talking about McCarthy.
Okay, so what is this comment on the short and intermediate routes? Say that one more time.
Yeah, so he says that Darnold, as good as he was last year, he lived and died by the deep ball. He feels J.J. McCarthy is a much better thrower on the short to intermediate routes, which he feels will open up more options, especially in the red zone, which kind of makes sense. Because
here's my number one question on that. And I know that we have a lot of J.J. McCarthy fans in here. Here's my number one question on that. He wasn't asked to throw the ball in the fourth quarter. J.J. McCarthy literally handed the ball off more times in the fourth quarter than he made passes. And there's a reason for that. And why wasn't he throwing the ball deep downfield? And we're talking a different size football and a lot of different speed. I don't have this same feeling about J.J. McCarthy. I think that it's going to be a total disaster this year. Now, every year, I call out a couple of quarterbacks. Every year. I was right on C.J. Stroud. I was right on Jaden Daniels and Sam Darnold. And those are the only 3 that I spoke about. Right? Baker Mayfield was another one that I said they threw him away, but the kid's going to come back, and he did. This year, it's J.J. McCarthy as my take against why he won't have a good season. I think, yes, he took a year off, redshirt, injury, got to study a little bit more. If he did, he is a tape junkie from what we understand. But now you have to execute. Remember how I call it the paper tiger syndrome? How you can be great on paper, but you still have to do it on the field. JJ has to execute. And until we actually see him execute, I can't give him any flowers just yet. He might have thrown the ball good at Michigan on short and intermediate routes, but I think the larger issue here is he was not trusted to throw the football when the time mattered. And that's not just my statement. Like, that's hundreds of other analysts' statement about J.J. McCarthy. And that is the biggest worry about J.J. McCarthy. So I'm not sold on that statement. What was the next one?
Yeah, so let me get this pulled back up here on this. So, yeah, number 3 was McCarthy's redshirt year may be just what he needed to learn the ins and outs of the offense and study opposing schemes. I guess the big thing with JJ is, hey, this kid literally watched film and took notes on every NFL defender.
I don't doubt that. I think JJ probably did, knowing what kind of a film junkie he has been. At least from hearing, not knowing, hearing what kind of a film junkie he's been. I wouldn't be surprised if he literally has a notebook on the Lions, and then like you said, every defender, what their deficiencies are, or at least what he views as their deficiencies. I wouldn't be surprised by that. But the one about Sam Darnold kind of living and dying by the deep ball, the dude took 48 sacks in 2024. 48. And still managed to average, 335 yards a game?
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
And Justin Jefferson wasn't even in all of the games, right? Didn't he miss a handful of games last year? I think he did.
Let me double check on that because I would not have said yes if just off the top of my head, but let me check.
I'm trying to find his deep ball percentages here because I'm pretty sure he didn't have the greatest deep ball percentage, but go ahead.
Yeah, Jefferson played in 17 games last year. He did, yeah. 103.
Was it the year before that he missed several games?
I think so. Yeah. But it's interesting conversation too, because if it's easy to be like, yeah, man, McCarthy's not going to be this superstar. And my thing is they may not necessarily need him to be. And if we're looking at it, and I guess I should have prefaced this asking the comments, how many wins does it seem like it's going to take to win the NFC North this year? Maybe it's not 15 and 14 like we saw last year with the Lions and Vikings. Can these teams? Sorry, let me mute while this is going off in the background.
So while he's muted up right there, so Harmon hit the nail on the head here that Sam Darnold had a career year with the Vikings in 2024. He threw 1,023 yards on deep passes, 20-plus air yards, over 150 more than any other quarterback last year, 150 more yards. He also led the NFL in deep completions, which is considered 20 or more yards, 28 of them. And then he tied for the most deep TD passes with 9. But did he really live and die by the deep ball? I don't know. I think Sam threw the ball very well. I should pull up next-gen stats here. But go ahead, Riley.
Yeah, and then when I think about that game at Ford Field, that was kind of the struggle. I remember, especially when they got in the red zone, there was, it was like, all right, man, our guys got to stop. But sometimes it just felt like Darnold just blatantly missed, their targets in the red zone. So obviously they made the move. JJ McCarthy's their guy. It may take him a year. I don't know that I'm looking at the Vikings as Super Bowl, contenders, but they impressed the hell out of me last year and surprised me. And so when that happens, I'm not gonna go into this year saying, I'm not worried about the Vikings. But when I asked Jason again, from a Vikings fan perspective, and this was just texting back and forth, but
sure,
it wasn't a surprise that a lot of what he said circled back to JJ McCarthy. Obviously, they're huge on JJ McCarthy. Like, as I said with Jason and with Thor, those guys, it seems like they wouldn't trade him for Mahomes. They love that guy. So we'll see how, good he ends up being. And then
you remember what I was saying earlier about the tailgate conversations?
Oh, yeah.
And how every year for the Lions fans, it was the year.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, the Vikings have the same syndrome because they've been dealt a really bad hand for a long time. And just like the Lions, they just have a more storied franchise with wins and losses than we did until we started to take off a little bit. Let me throw this up on the screen. So let's analyze Darnold for just a moment and what happened in 2024 with the Minnesota Vikings. So right and left at the 20 plus, yes, he was over league average yardage on both. I mean, all across the field, right? But look at these intermediate routes and look at these short routes. He hit all 3 above league average. He hit top right, 10 to 20 yards above league average. He was at or close to league average over the middle. He does not like throwing left short or left intermediate here. 57.4. He does not like throwing over there. He either throws it short or he throws it long. If they are running more in routes right here, in cutting routes, I would say that he probably would have had a better opportunity. But if I remember correctly, they threw a lot more out routes on that side of the field. Obviously really good behind the line of scrimmage. I mean, if you look at this passing chart is insane. I mean, yellow is not bad. He's still above league average. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of 12. No, I'm sorry, 10 out of 12 passing zones. He was better than league average. And 7 out of 12, he was one of the best at hitting every zone. So I don't think he lived, lived and died from the long ball. I think that he was just as good in short intermediate routes and even, behind the line of scrimmage as well. But continue on with your.
No, that's good. I'd love to have Jason on and be having this discussion too, because you pull that up. I'd be curious to see if we could get Goff's up just to kind of compare. Because
I'm doing it right now.
Is you're displaying that on the screen? It's like, and that quarterback won 14 games. Is that a guy you want to move on from?
Yeah, I wouldn't have. I would not have.
You were one of the few. I'm dead ass serious. One of the few from the get go that was on board with Darnold.
So this is also impressive. This is Jared Goff's.
Yeah.
Now he may not have green in the northern routes here. We'll call them 20 plus deep routes. He may not have a bunch of green, but he was above average everywhere. Everywhere except for middle behind the line of scrimmage. But he was above average, and top left. Everywhere else. So 10 out of 12, he was above league average. And like Darnold, 7 out of 12, he was above league average. Now, Goff smoked it. I mean, he was at the top of the league in almost every category between 0 and 20 yards. At the top. It doesn't get any better than what Jared Goff did last season. So when you were to compare these two, right, that's Jared Goff. We'll go back to Sam Darnold.
And we'll come back to this at the end of during next offseason and see how JJ fared.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, he had 2 bad categories compared to Goff had no bad categories. Pretty impressive stuff by Sam Darnold. Again, I think that he painted the field pretty well. But continue on with your segment here.
Vikings here. Yeah, so number 4, this was just Jason's. And we won't spend a ton of time doing the whole case for, case against. These were just a couple things I wanted to go over as to if we just look at it and say, I think everybody in here knows it's a super tough division, and so let's get a realistic idea of what we're going up against here. And then number 4 for Jason Harmon, he pointed out to me that he said the fact that Lions did lose multiple key pieces, obviously the coordinators, Ragnow, says while he fully is expecting the Lions to still be the favorites, he said it is, quote, not hard to imagine a potential slow start to the year for the Lions. And so you've been kind of giving me feedback throughout, but that's from a Viking.
So Harmon, I can't wait to get him on a show for once, but we'll have to work on him to be in that week's or one of the Minnesota Vikings guys. So I got 3 that we could potentially have on, or we could have all 3 of them in. It'll be 3 on 2 for all I care. Where was I just gonna go with that?
So the Vikings.
Yeah, so the Lions stumbling a little bit. I kind of said the same thing, that by week 4, the Lions will be cooking, but unfortunately, we're going to have to cook by week 3. Do I think that we're going to lose any games through week 4? No, but I'm saying it's probably not going to be as pretty as we'd want to see it. So I would agree with him there that I think that we will stumble a little bit out of the gates. The Lions do it every year. By week 5, Jared Goff's playing his best football. The only way that I think I could be wrong here is the fact that we've got the same team minus Frank Ragnow. That's the only difference. but we have the same team. And we have a different coordinator, but it's the same offense. Same head coach and the majority of assistants. Passing game coordinators changed, right? Quarterbacks coach still the same. Offensive line is still the same as far as the offensive line coach. I mean, you could probably draw a line in the sand and say it's 50-50 that the Lions could or may or may not regress a little bit in the beginning of the season. I'd love to know in the chat in the comments later, do you think that the Lions are going to stumble out of the gates to start week 1? Still win, tight game, blow out the Packers, whatever it is. Tell me in the comments later. We need your comments, please. Let's get to at least 20, 30 comments today after the show. All right, go ahead, Riley.
Yeah, so you are if the Lions start 2-2, you're not going to be hitting the panic button. Remember, they lost 2 games all of last year.
I think whatever I don't remember what I put up in the beginning. I think I had us 3-1 or 4-0 to start the season. If there's any game that we're going to lose in the beginning of the year, it's against the Ravens.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a game we have to win. We have to win, well, as many games as possible, but the divisional games are the most important. Obviously, week 2 is huge. Starting the season against divisional opponents, we cannot lose those games.
Yeah, you got to have them. And
Right.
It's been a few years since they've started out that way, it feels like. But speaking of Chicago, that rolls right into Chicago. If we can get that article back on the screen and then go down to the second paragraph, I think we can kind of extract the bulk of what they are thinking over there in Chicago. So if you go down one, where it says the addition of Johnson, obviously Ben Johnson should ease the concerns about Caleb Williams after a rocky first season. Former number 1 overall pick might not have been the out-of-the-box dominant, but there were enough flashes to justify his standing. Ben Johnson should help give the young passer more answers and even out the valleys that plagued him last year with weapons galore in the passing game. DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, as Zacchaeus, Olamide Zacchaeus, maybe saying that wrong, Colston Loveland, and Cole Kmet. Williams should have someone who can win each snap. With Johnson's creativity, Chicago could be in for its best passing season of all time. That's what they're banking on. Chicago to finally have a quarterback eclipse. I think it's the 4,000-yard mark. And, they're talking solely on the offensive side of the ball. Does Chicago scare you any more than Minnesota does? Does Caleb Williams scare you more than J.J. McCarthy does?
All right, so I'm going to give you a teaser. I got to roll back into the regular screen here, but I want to give you a teaser here. When I did the interview with the Packer fan, cerebral palsy gamer, we looked at the board, right? And he asked me where the division was going to finish. And I said, I'm not worried about the Bears as much, and I think that the Bears should be a better team than the Vikings just because they're second year of Caleb Williams. It's either going to be a big jump or it's going to be a big regression. But, new coach, typically first year's not great. I mean, look at Dan Campbell. First year head coach, 3-13-1, not great. Most first year head coaches don't do well. The thing that I think that they can take advantage of is new strategy. And, the NFL's not going to know what these guys are doing. And it's only week 2 when the Lions face them. So, yeah, there could be some strategy that, maybe we don't recognize just yet. But if you look at my board, it's Lions, Packers, Bears, and Vikings. I got the Vikings on the bottom. I think the Vikings are going to finish 4th, and that's because they've got J.J. McCarthy as quarterback this year. Could surprise the hell out of me. JJ could throw it deep just like Darnold. I don't know. We'll find out. But right now I got the Vikings on the bottom, and I got the Bears at number 3 by default just because it's going to be their second year with Caleb. And I don't think the I don't think that the Packers are going to let off. I think that they're going to have a much better year this year.
Yeah, and that leads right into Green Bay at the bottom of the article, towards the bottom. Their whole thing is, again, basically centered around Jordan Love. It makes sense. You're talking about a team's chances of having, success. The Packers went 11-6 last season, made the playoffs, yet based on the offseason narratives, you'd have thought that they had bottomed out and fired their coach. If 11-6 is a down year under Matt LaFleur, That's a pretty good baseline. Yes, the 2024 season wasn't exactly pretty, but they still handled business against the teams they were supposed to beat. Here's the thing. The ugliest part was a 1-5 record in the division. Flip one or two of those games and it's a different conversation. When I read that, I was like, man, and you just made mention of it. Obviously, if you want to win the division, you've got to win, division games. For Green Bay to be that close, imagine if they won either of the games against the Lions or one or two more against Chicago or Minnesota, it would have been even muddier at the top of the standings. The narrative surrounding Jordan Love has devolved to the point that he's had to defend himself this offseason. Playing injured for much of last season, Love's metrics, particularly on early downs, were comparable to that of a top-tier signal caller. The quarterback was also the victim of 23 dropped passes per next-gen stats. So if Christian Watson's out for the year with a torn ACL, they obviously drafted Matthew Golden, finally took a number 1 wide receiver in the draft, or so they hope. And then Jeff Hafley's arrival helped turn around a habitually underperforming defense. The Packers finished 6th in points allowed and 5th in yards allowed. The last time Green Bay was inside the top 10 in both categories was 2010. The group was particularly solid in coverage with Xavier McKinney leading the back end. If Hafley can coax better pressure from his front and Lucas Van Ness finally lives up to his draft status, this unit could be a dangerous crew for the opposition. So Green Bay, I think you kind of just spelled it out, Will, but sounds like you're kind of expecting more of the same. Green Bay is pretty reliably a good team. 10, 11 wins every year, it seems.
Yeah. So, sorry, I just trying to fix something.
Oh, you're fine. And let's see.
Yeah, so the thing about Green Bay, but I want to walk back to the Bears for just a moment. And then I'll jump back into Green Bay. The reason why I want to walk back to the Bears is because when you look at what they did on their offensive line, this is the main reason why I have them ahead of the Vikings. Joe Thuney, consummate pro. Drew Dahlman, consummate pro. Jonah Jackson, liability. But they completely, while they plugged holes for now, we don't know if they fixed it, but they plugged some major holes with some big bodies and some guys that know what they're doing, man. Jonah Jackson, I mean, just close your eyes and throw 4 darts. If any of them lands on the dart, I mean, those are like the chances you have with Jonah Jackson right now. So I don't believe in him, but I do believe in the fact that they severely upgraded their offensive line, and that was a major issue last year for the Bears. And I mean, Caleb Williams got the snot kicked out of him, so much so that people started to question his effort and his body language. Remember when you were talking about body language, and in his body language I remember him just kind of slumped over, just trying to get up, players pulling him up off the ground, and he's just slumped over, he didn't want to play football anymore.
Right, yeah, like it wasn't fun.
Right, and so you can't discount the credit or discount the fact that they have DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden is a rookie, and Colston Loveland as a rookie, and then Cole Kmet's he's always been a thorn in our side. So they've got a really good wide receiver room, not impressed with the running backs, and a really good, offensive line. That's why I have them ahead of the Vikings, simply because they're going to give Caleb Williams a little bit more time. When it comes to the Packers, look, the Packers have just been perennial winners. Now, is it true? Am I right that the Packers have had only one Super Bowl appearance and one Super Bowl win?
They may have more appearances, but I feel like it's just the one win, at least for all the time that Rodgers was there.
Right. Well, I guess I should have finished that thought. In the last 25 years. I'm looking it up real quick. I thought I heard something the other day that, and maybe I knew this before. Yeah, it's only been one in the last 25 years. They've appeared in 5 Super Bowls. They've won 4. And the last one was 2011. Before that, they won Super Bowl 1, 2, and 31. We're on Super Bowl 60 this year. So they won one in 2011, and before that, it was 29 Super Bowls ago. So they've won literally 2 out of the last, what will be roughly 30 seasons. The Packers, they have banners, right? They're the NFC North Division. I can't say that word. I can't say that word either. Look, they're stat patterns. Let's just put it that way. They won a lot of banners because the division sucked for a long time. And now that tide has changed. Now you have all 4 teams that are looking good. Bears they're going to be, in it to win it probably within a couple of seasons. I think the same for the Vikings. But the Packers need to do something in a hurry to get better because every team is getting better. And the Lions are the cream of the crop right now. It is the toughest division in football. And in this whole segment was making a case for or against why, each team has an opportunity to win the division.
Right.
I mean, you see what's back here. I don't know which way it's better. Maybe you need to turn this way. But you can see, oh my God, I can't do this. I could never be a weather guy. You can see it here. Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings. I'm not changing from that until after training camp. And maybe after preseason, I'll readjust. That's when I'll start to release the unbiased reviews. Last year, I did the unbiased reviews, I think, way too early. But I got it right. I said the Vikings were going to have one of the best defenses in the league, and they did. I said that Sam Darnold is going to be great, and he was. But I'm going to do a little bit later this year when we do the unbiased reviews and make sure that we actually finish each division. So it's a lot of work. I still got it the way I got it, man. It's Lions, Packers, Bears, and Vikings this year, and I think that's going to hold true. But we'll see what I come up with later. And I'm not saying that I'm right. I would love to know what you guys think in the comments later after the show. Please, everyone in the show right now, take 2 minutes of your time. After the show, just go in and put it in. Lions, Packers, Bears, Vikings, or Vikings, whatever order you want to put it in. Drop it in a comment. Help us out in the comments. That'd be great. Make sure you guys have subscribed and liked to the channel. And if you haven't subscribed, I would like to know why. Please email me at mailbag@rockdown.com. We'll be doing a members-only show here pretty soon. And then every week we'll be doing a members-only show. It's going to be members Q&A. And that will be phone lines. I want to make sure that the phone lines are open. All the members, get a few minutes to call in, talk to the other members, say what's on your mind, bring some topics to discuss. So members only Q&A. It's Wednesday. I can't do it on Thursday, but maybe I'll do it on, a Saturday morning, but I don't know which day it's going to be going forward. But I'll fit it in this week, and then I don't know which day it'll be going forward. What are your final thoughts on this segment here?
Yeah, I think I give you credit for sticking to your guns. I think for me last year, I interviewed a lot of people, especially in the Detroit media, and I'd ask them the standard question. All right, we're getting close to the season. Rank them for me. Give them to me 1 through 4, and it was unanimous. Even a couple of people from within the Vikings media that I interviewed was Minnesota was last. And then again, when I found Rocked On Detroit Lions and going back and listening to some older shows, it's like, wow, Will was one of the only one that I knew personally that, said, hey, Minnesota's going to be a bigger problem. I think for me, it's just not wanting to get burned again with, overlooking. But I honestly don't know, man. I worry that Ben Johnson's going to be good in Chicago. I worry that McCarthy's going to be good in Minnesota. And then again, the Packers are going to be, what they are. But to wrap this up, put a bow on it, let's scroll up to the Lions, the case for Detroit winning the division. These are things that we've talked about, extensively.
I just stepped off of that too. Hold on.
That's all right.
Okay. Yeah, just roll through it.
I think we can kind of sum it up. Yeah, it says, yes, the Lions lost a lot of smart, talented coaches, but the talent on the field remains exceptional. They still boast the NFL's best backfield with Gibbs and Montgomery. Sonic and Knuckles are Detroit's identity. And expect new OC John Morton to lean into them even more in 2025. I think, Will, you've also said that. The weapons on offense are excellent. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
What did I say? I'm sorry, what did I say?
that they will be leaning into the running game even more.
Yeah. I definitely want to see more. Well, I love the balanced offense attack, but I want to see some more ground and pound this year.
Yeah, for sure. And if JMO makes another leap, becoming a consistent player on the intermediate routes, gobbling up yards after catch, this offense goes to the next level. I don't care who it is calling plays. It stung Detroit that Ben Johnson left for Chicago, but it's not as if these studs were simply a product of his calls. Teams don't win 15 games in a season and then forget how to play. If Jared Goff continues to be a plus under center and avoids the compounding mistakes, this offense will still flourish. And then obviously there's everything we could say about the defense. We're getting a lot of reinforcements. A lot of players are coming back. So, just kind of an interesting, here we are a month from preseason games, and it's just kind of going through the logistic or the unbiased and reasonable kind of, why it might be hard for the Lions to three-peat as NFC North champions. But I do expect that they will. I think it's going to be a battle, but that's how NFL football is. And you really wouldn't want it any other way. I loved last year. I was so stunned that Minnesota kept winning. But, man, I loved that week 18, Sunday Night Football at home for the division. Like, that's as good as it gets, man. And then, unfortunately, the playoff game happened. But that week 18 was that you can't replicate it. It's like Game 7 of an NBA Finals, like we just saw. It's everything has to build to that crescendo and get to that point. And I think it's going to be extremely competitive, and you welcome the competition.
I think you said that as good as you can say it, man. Good work by Gina, member for 3 months, level 1 Lions faithful, following her footsteps. Join the Rocked On membership today. We're going to do the membership Q&A, like I said. I'll probably do it this Saturday. And more stuff coming at you guys. More member stuff this year than last year. We're going to slow it down a little bit. We're going to kick the game winner for you, Gina.
Jake Bates from 57. There's the snap, kick on its way. It is up, and it is good.
Okay, so next up, I want to get into this next article here, the Lions article, the Lions potentially getting some cap relief and great salary cap news, I guess you could call it. I'll wind this into a video later. I'm going to drill it down a little bit more than I'm going to be able to this morning. But let's just jump into it by Yardbarker here. I don't agree with everything that they're saying in here, but we're going to run through it. So the Detroit Lions have become a team built mainly through the draft. That's very true. Through trades and free agent signings. I don't know so much about trades. I mean, they've made a couple, but largely those players aren't around. For teams that experience a level of success in drafting, as the Lions have, a natural part of that is signing players to contract extensions. We know this as Lions fans right now that this is a major problem. We're up against it. Not only the clock, but the salary cap. So keeping these players around for a long time, you've got to get them signed to an extension. And that's going to be our biggest problem next year. And as the article says, it's the greatest equalizer, man. If you can keep your players, great. But largely, teams can't. And the Lions are going to be the next team to feel that pain next year. But hopefully not. Hopefully we're going to be able to keep these guys. So it says, to be clear, the Lions are not in any kind of like a New Orleans Saints like danger right now, but according to Over the Cap, Detroit currently sits around 40 million. According to Spot Track, that's 48 million under the cap. Big number. It doesn't mean anything because next year, right now, I think that we're slated to be about negative 16 million underneath the cap, and that is before we do any other big time signings or make any other adjustments. Now, with the number of players wanting to get rewarded for their performance, such as Jahmyr Gibbs, Sam Laporta, Jack Campbell, Brian Branch, it's a very real chance, again, as the article says, that star players and key depth players may begin to walk if they can't get contracts that they feel that they deserve. Defensive end Zadarius Smith is a great example of this, as the free agent acquired by the Lions midseason last year remains unsigned by the team. I don't think that that's a great example. So like I said, there's some things in this that I don't agree with. That is one. The Lions didn't retain him because of salary cap implications, but paying a 30-plus-year-old defensive end, 32, 33, whatever he is this year, $16 million 10 and a quarter this year and 5, and some change next year, with him not even being on the roster next year, that was the problem. So if they could have come to a restructured deal, then yeah, it would have worked out. But it didn't. And for right now, he's not going to be on the roster. We'll see if he's needed. I think that there's still a big chance that he comes back. Otherwise, why would he not be signed? There's definitely a team out there that wants to sign him. So PFF's terrifying Aiden Hutchinson question will give Lions fans nightmares. And here's what it says. Arriving at the possibility, the best time possible for the organization, arriving at possibly the best time possible for the organization is news that the salary cap may end up seeing a large-scale boost in the next few years. Ryan Love from USA Today's Lions Wire recently reported that Nielsen is changing how it measures viewer audiences. Now, I didn't bring in the other article to go through this, but I will post this article in the comments, and I'll also put it into the chat when I'm done so that you can follow the other links. Now, what this goes on to say is, first, it's their out-of-home viewing measure has been overhauled to better capture true metrics covering 100% of the U.S. contiguous population. Like the name suggests, this change better accounts for people who choose to go to bars, restaurants, and other venues, including in less populated areas. That's not all, though. Live streaming tracking, as well as information from smart TVs and satellites, have also been drastically improved. What that means is we are being tracked everywhere, people. I'm just saying. But changes to the rating system being approved in November of 2024 and again in January of 2025. What this means for the Lions is this. As Love mentioned in his article, which is linked in this article, the NFL is set to renegotiate its TV rights deals in 2028. If the league is able to use more complete metrics that show a greatly increased viewer count, that means the league will be able to charge to allow for a substantial boost in the salary cap. So a large part of what teams get is revenue sharing from all of the contracts and deals that they have with networks. What they're doing now is they're trying to look a little bit deeper into the stats to figure out how much more they can add to their bottom line. I don't know why they have to go through this big hoopla to do this. You would think that the checks that they get would just be enough to say, okay, this is where we are because this is what we got. Is it going to make considerable difference to the salary cap? I don't know. But this guy seems to think so. He says a shift in viewership capture can help the Lions significantly with the salary cap increase. Now, this isn't just for the Lions. This is the entire league. So it helps the entire league. It's not like the Lions are just going to get a big, extra bonus. That's just not what happens. It's the entire league gets an extra bonus. So in turn, this means that some long-term contracts that are being negotiated right now, such as the Lions defensive end Aiden Hutchinson, can be creatively built to take advantage of that prospective boost. Teams across the league could theoretically backload one or two contracts and be able to afford to sign other players to short-term contracts, players that would have had to have been traded elsewhere, or otherwise they walk. So it goes on to talk about Kirby Joseph, who's already been signed. They've got Brian Branch. It goes on to say everything that I was saying earlier. The Lions general manager Brad Holmes has thus far proven adroit at handling contracts for players. Quite a few members of the Lions got paid over the last 2 years, including Jared Goff, Penei Sewell, David Montgomery, to name a few. So that's really all I wanted to highlight in this article, and now I want to break it down just a little bit. It means what it says. This boost is league-wide. It's not for the Lions. But we've seen major cap increases over the last couple of seasons, right? What was it last year, Riley? Do you remember? It was about 10%.
Let me double check.
Let's see who's faster. All right, so in 2024, the league saw an increase of 23.8 million. That's a big jump, right? It was one of the biggest jumps I think it was the biggest jump that we've ever seen. If you wouldn't mind looking back at 23, Riley, while I'm going through this. So in 2025, we saw an increase of 23.8. In 2024, I don't have that number, but the overall number was 255.4 million. Now it's 279.2. So you're talking about, what is that, 9% ish? So let's just call it 10%. So if it goes up another 10%, you're talking 300 million in 2026. If it goes up another 10 or 12%, because based on what they're coming down with these numbers for the networks, right, and how much viewership numbers they're going to get, and these new metrics that they're adding, could it go up 13%, 12%? And by 2027, the cap's at 350, million or more? Probably. So what does that do for Aiden? What does that do for the rest of the guys that need to get signed? Well, I think the number one thing is agreeability. Aiden and his agent are going to have to agree, we can get this done. We can't pay you until 2028. You know what I mean? They're going to backload the last, couple years of this deal. So Aiden right now is signed through 2026. So it'd be 2029. The first year of his extension would be 2027. Right? So if they sign him to a 4 or a 5 year deal and 2027 is the first year, maybe then you're not paying him a big number until 2029. Unlike Jared Goff. Right? So Jared Goff was signed through when? 2025 initially?
I think so. Yep. And then they gave him a 4-year.
Yeah, they gave him a 4-year deal. I'm trying to look it up. I probably should have this up earlier. So, yeah, in 2024, he signed a 4-year, $212 million contract extension. In March 24 of 2021, when he was brought over, they converted 20 million of his salary cap. So we traded for him in January 30 of 2021. I don't remember how many years was left on his contract. Was it 3?
Let me confirm that at the time.
I think it was 3 or 4. 1, 2, 3. So yeah, it had to be. So right now he's signed through 2028. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so he had 3 years left on his deal. And so they signed him to a 4-year extension, which means that 2025, I guess, would be the first year of his extension. So unlike Jared Goff, like I was saying, I was confident, but I wanted to make sure. His salary this year is $32.6 million. But they didn't really backload it a ton. But in the second year, I mean, I guess you could say they backloaded it, because the second year is 69.6, and then it walks down to 54.6, and then back up to 61.6. So you can kind of see what they're trying to do. Aiden is signed through 26, which the first year of his extension would be 27, and that is the second lowest number on Jared Goff's contract, 54.6 million, which I think you have to agree. I mean, the going rate right now is almost 55 million for a quarterback. So it's a pretty good number in 2026. So you can kind of see where things are starting to align, what I call roster roulette, bringing guys in through the draft, filling your holes, if you will, through free agency. But now you're looking at Aiden and saying, okay, we can get this done, but we're going to backload you. 2028 and 2029 are going to be the big hits of your contract, of your future extension, which means maybe Brian Branch, well, he was a second-round draft pick, so next year is his last year, right? Well, maybe his big hit is in 2026 or 2027, but Aiden's big hit's in 2028. Maybe Jahmyr Gibbs' big hit is in 2027 or 20. You know what I'm saying? So you can kind of stack it like Tetris if you want.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Yeah, and so I guess where I'm going with this is if the Lions get, or if the NFL gets more viewership rating dollars, and the salary cap is able to increase. Now I've floated both ways on this. because even though the salary cap's going to increase, we've got contracts that are going to negate that increase. It's going to have to go up considerably for these things to work for all of these players. Can they all get re-signed? They can. It's just agreeability, I think, is the sticking point to this, where these players are going to have to look at themselves and say, I want to win a Super Bowl. I want to win it in Detroit. I want to play for Dan Campbell. Really enjoy the front office. Why would I want to go anywhere else? We need to be agreeable. I want my money, right? I want my deal, but make it work for the team. However it works for the team, as long as I get what I'm supposed to get, I don't care when I'm going to get it. As long as I get my guaranteed money, I'm good. And I think that has to be the relationship that I think would work in Detroit. Is it? Probably not, right? I know I'm trying to rise everybody up a little bit here and thinking that everything's going to be okay, but at the same time, how many times do we see that happen across the league? Never. You have never seen it happen. But do I believe that it can happen in Detroit? I do. Go ahead, Riley.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's very well said. I mean, I could just immediately ask, tell us why you do. Because you're right. It all sounds good in theory. Oh, man, these guys are just going to want to buy into the team. They're going to go for the, team, the name on the front, not on the back. They're all going to buy in. They're all going to take discount. It's just not realistic. But you're right. The agreeability, and do they have the patience to trust, hey, I'm going to get my money. It's going to come on the back end. And I'd be curious to know, like, if you were a GM, Will, if you were Brad Holmes and you were going to sit down and offer this to Hutchinson, do you just explain it to his agent and then hope his agent relays it back to him? Or do you bring Hutch in the room and sit down and put up a, PowerPoint or whatever you're doing and spell it out and say, hey, here's why we want to pay you X amount of dollars right now. And then Jared's money comes down and then yours goes up and all that, kind of like you said with the Tetris. Would you take the best players on your team and sit them down in the room and explain to them yourself, you want it to come directly from you? Here's how we're planning on structuring this. Here's why it makes sense.
I would love to be able to do that, but I think it's against the collective bargaining agreement that all contract negotiations have to go through the agent.
Really? Okay. I did not know that.
I don't quote me. I mean, I'm pretty positive that that's the case, that you can't have constructive contract negotiations with players. It has to go through the agent. That doesn't mean that players can't get looped in through the agent. That doesn't mean that the Lions couldn't ask for permission to have a meeting, right? To say, hey, we want to have a contract meeting. Come on in, but we want to sit everybody down and walk through it as a team. We don't want to talk numbers to anybody. Well, like, numbers won't be on the table. It's just going to be a theory, right? It's, this is how we see it working out. What, Aiden is, big number in 28, Brian, big number in 29, and Gibbs, big number in 27. So this is how we kind of see it facilitating, the best way possible to make this happen. That would be wonderful, like you said, in theory.
If you do that well enough, you don't have to say numbers, right? It's kind of like nod, wink, wink. Like, dude, what I'm telling you is you're going to get a fat paycheck. Trust me, do it this way. We're going to set ourselves up, and this is how the team's going to be successful. It's interesting, man. I'm glad you brought that up because I hadn't really thought about that, because I always imagine, I feel like I hear about in NBA, the way the free agency happens and stuff, they literally recruit the players, record them, have them in, wine and dine them, and do all that. And then if it's different in the NFL, obviously you wouldn't do that for all of your players. Most of the players on your roster, you can say, here, we'll give you 3 for 12 and take it or leave it, kind of a thing. But your best players, you want to say, here's how we are setting this up, and here's why. Just trust us. And you're going to have a lot of financial success and ideally team success too, because it'd suck, man, if the Lions just went back to being a mediocre team, which there are a lot of people that seem to think that that's going to be the case because they lost a couple of coordinators and their center retired.
Yeah, I don't think
I don't think it's the case.
I don't think so. To Brent's comment, Brent says, Lamar Jackson did not have a true agent. Yeah, he didn't have an agent. So he was his own agent. He was acting as his agent. That's a good difference. So if you don't have an agent, you can have those conversations. But if you have a signed agent, it has to go through the agent. I'll verify this tonight or for tomorrow morning, and then for tomorrow night we'll talk about it a little bit more. I do plan on doing a little bit of a video on this to kind of drill down some numbers and see how this could lay out. We'll get to it. The last thing I wanted to get to real quick. Do you have anything pressing on your sheet that you want to get to today? Is there anything super, super important?
No, I think the main one I wanted to hit on today was the, case for every team in the NFC North. So whatever you've got, let's roll it.
Well, it's really just talking about Frank Ragnow. And so speaking in, we're just going to roll right with, salary cap issues here. So Frank, if I understand this correctly, he has to officially retire, which I think he officially retired, right? He officially announced it on Monday. Back when, right? Was that like June 1st or I'm not sure. When was that?
Yeah, late May, early June.
I think it was a Sunday or the Friday before, whenever it was. End of May, early June, he announced his retirement. And what this article is a couple weeks old, but the way it talked about Ragnow's shift in salary cap and how it's going to benefit the Lions, which I think the Lions have already figured this one out because the Lions went from 40 to 48 million, but I'm not sure what's being reflected yet. Ragnow's leftover money from the non-guarantee that he's going to receive for retiring. He had a base salary in 2025 of $9.15 million. He had a signing bonus due of 1.2 that was guaranteed. He had an option bonus of 3.6 that was guaranteed. He had a workout bonus, which he clearly didn't get, of $100K. His cap hit in 25 was $14 million. That was option one of that was option one. That was year one, 2025 of his leftover contract. 2026, he had a base salary of 11.9, no signing bonus, another 3.6 million in option bonus, 750K of roster, 100K of workout, total cap hit of 16.35 million. The way that the Lions were going to benefit from his retirement, which I don't know how we benefit really, but monetarily they do. Option one for the Lions to do this is there's a traditional method and then there's a split method. In 2020, a lot of this is broken down, I believe, by SB Nation. Yeah, SB Nation, Eric Schlitt. So signing bonus, 1.2 million in 2025, guaranteed 3.6 million of his option bonus, and then adding the other option bonus from 2026 to 2025, giving the Lions a total cap hit of 8.4, which is, I believe, what they took. The 2025 cap space that was then freed up was 5.6 million. The 2026 cap hit would be 0. I'm pretty positive that's the way that the Lions went with this. The other option was splitting it up to where the Lions would have had a 4.8 million cap hit in 25 and a 3.6 million cap hit in 26. So based on recent numbers on Spotrac, which I feel is the most accurate one, it now shows the Lions have 48 million. Let me pull this up. I don't think that they have Frank Ragnow on here anymore, which I'm pretty positive they don't.
Yeah, I think he should be officially off the roster.
He's officially off when he officially retires. That's the thing. Which I think that's already been done, but I don't pay attention to every little nuance. All I know is Frank never had a like a press conference. And
that's true.
I know he was kind of toying back and forth with it.
Yeah.
From what I understand or what I read, that he was toying back and forth with whether he was going to do it or not. But it's like, every primetime player has seemed to have had some sort of a press conference. Why didn't he?
Yeah, I think hopefully at some point he does. I don't know if it's like a sense of closure or something, but I can understand the personality because I think I saw something like he posted he was hunting or something the other day, and it's just what you'd expect from Frank Ragnow. But I can understand if you timing's got to feel right, but I'm sure at some point he'll release or do something other than just an Instagram post with a caption announcing his retirement. Or
so,
maybe not. Maybe
another good question in here by Art Vandelay talking about Cam Sutton. I'll come back on that. Matter of fact, I'll make that a video today, but let me just show you here. Spot Track. Detroit Lions salary cap table currently $48.6 million. We are second in the league with available cap space right now. Total cap allocations $292.429 million. So even though we're over the cap, right? We're way over the cap. We are allowed to be over the cap because the Lions rolled money in. And you can break it all down, but when I whittled it down, right? Go down to right here. There's all your left tackles. Here's all your guards. No center. No Frank Ragnow listed. Oh, other than Michael Neeson Kingsley. No Frank Ragnow. Oh, let me go back up. Right there. No Frank. Just these guys. So with Frank not being on this anymore, I believe that's why this number is what it is right here. 48.596835 on the year. Yeah, and as far as Cam Sutton goes, Art, the short answer is I don't believe it was all voided. And I'll dig into that, and I'll get you the rest of the information later on today. So 30 seconds to you, Riley, as soon as I get us back on the screen. What was most important out of the show today, or what's most important for, I guess, your thoughts on the Lions today?
Well, yeah, man. It's another 2-hour show that feels like it's 10 minutes. I'm going to post that link in there for the interview that Will did with with Cerebral Palsy Gamer. Be sure to go listen to that. And, on the way out to like and subscribe for us. That helps the channel grow so much. And I'm excited, man. Hope everybody has a great rest of your Wednesday. And Rocked On Detroit Lions is here. We're not going anywhere. Only getting better, only getting stronger. And go Lions.
Yeah, so for me, man, it's hurry up and get here already. I want to see some football. But then again, I don't want time to fly any faster than it is. Seems like as the older we get, man, the days just seem to fly by. So take full advantage of it. We've had a couple of deaths in our Lions family here, Rocked On family. So big shout out to J-Rod losing his father the other night. And, man, just take an extra moment to tell the people that you love that, you love them, man. And give them a hug if you can, because you never know. That's my thought of the day, is how important people are, and why it's better to be nice. And what do they say? It's better to be full of sugar than spice or something like that. Just be nice to people, man. I think that's all it takes. Riley, good show. We'll get into more tomorrow. Or I'll get into more tomorrow night. Member show coming up on Saturday. Please like, share, subscribe, be part of the Rocked On Detroit Lions family, and become a member today. It's only like $2 a month or something like that, and you get a lot more by being a member. This year we're going to do a lot more. Rocked On jersey giveaway is up next. It will be, well, it's a raffle, and we're doing a giveaway, but this will be listed today. It won't be this one. This one's mine. You can get it. You can get it in any color. I don't care what color you get it in. So I'm gonna list that up for a raffle today. It will be autographed, and I might even go the extra distance and put it in a frame. If you want to frame it, or if you want to wear it, whatever. It's just something unique to come from the show. You never know. You never know what might happen. But just a piece of the show for somebody. And we'll do more stuff like that. We've got some other little things coming up, but I think we found our property yesterday, Riley.
That's exciting, man. I'm excited to talk with you more. And
so I'll end the show on this. It already has a 32 by 100 pole barn on it. It has another 50-foot pole barn on it. And that's way more than I need.
Yeah, but I don't know,
way
man.
More.
I think you kind of do things one way. I think it just
all the way.
Yeah. Yes. I think I don't think anybody in the in our audience would expect anything less, but that's exciting, man.
We try to do it the right way, man. Yeah, so just under 5 acres, which is way more than I would want. I don't this means I have to take care more. I don't want to do it. I'll probably just leave 3 acres to do whatever they're gonna do. But you know, good opportunity for hunting and all sorts of stuff out there. But out in the middle of nowhere, my biggest worry, which I got to find out today, is their high-speed internet. Because if there's not, it's not the property.
Yeah. That's you got to find that out first. Now, is this move supposed to happen before week 1?
No. This is so the full transition kind of looks like this. One, it's all up in the air. Buy an RV, go live on the property since it already has everything we need, power and all that stuff. A huge 32 by 100 pole barn that we could park the thing in the winter.
Yep. While you're building.
Right. Put concrete, inside the pole barn. That's the only thing that wasn't done. That's a lot of concrete. We might live there throughout the winter, put up some heat or something, or we might just go rent a place on a lake somewhere. A lot of rentable homes. People fly down to Florida. So we know some people around the lake that we just go rent a home for a few months and then maybe RV it a lot, travel a lot next year while the house is being built. But I'm contracting it myself, so that means I'm gonna have to be around.
Overseeing things, yeah.
I'm not paying a contractor 20%. I'd rather take 20%. We're gonna have the baddest ass podcast studio in the country with that speakeasy style. I think is what we're gonna go for. But anyway, hopefully we're gonna go view it today. We're gonna go walk it, and if we like it, I think we're gonna lock it down.
That's awesome, man. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for Megan. I'm excited for the Rock family. I'm excited for Rocked On Detroit Lions. You said it best. I can't wait for the games just to start and feeling like I made the comment earlier, like what even was Detroit Lions fandom before I found this channel? Somehow it was super fulfilling, but now it's just next level. I can't wait to go through the season with everybody, break down the games 1 week at a time, talk about the ups, the downs, and just kind of weather the storm. And hopefully it's a great season. But for sure, Rocked On Detroit Lions enhances the fan experience, I would say, without question.
I think the most important thing for me is consistency, right? I was super consistent in the first year, but as health challenges and other things happen, you can't be as consistent. And with all the other channels and all the other things that I'm doing, it's hard, right? Still being a one-man band, largely with all the background stuff. And that's starting to come together too, bringing in some people, some social media experts. So if you guys want to write as freelance, you can earn commission. That's up to you to earn commission. But if you have a son or a daughter that's in college, maybe they want to pick up writing, or they're a social media expert, tell them to give me a call or send me an email. Mailbag@rockedon.com is probably the best way. Send it in. Be more than happy to bring some people in, but it's freelance. It's fun stuff. It'll help build your portfolio, being an intern, and I'll be more than happy to work with anyone that wants to do this. And then, if they want to get on a show, if they want to, be part of the show at some point, all for it, man. All for it. So build that resume up. All right, we'll see. Go ahead.
It doesn't have to just be Lions also.
No, it could be any sport.
Any sport, yeah.
Any sport, any team, it doesn't matter. We'll help you with everything that we know. But put it out there, ask your people, ask your grandkids, whatever, if they want to get rolling, ask your kids if they're young and they want to get rolling. I think it'll be fun. So, all right, y'all, J-Rock. I put mid-Michigan, but I can't put out where I'm going to move just for security issues, but some people will know. Like it'll be in the members chat, so you guys will know where I'm at. I'm gonna have a party there anyway at some point, so we're gonna have a full party once we get onto this new property. I might even have a going away party here before we leave. But all right, we'll see you guys back at it tomorrow night. I'll see you later this afternoon, and back here on Friday morning. So hey, rock out your Wednesday. You're halfway through the week. All right, take care. We'll see you guys in the next one.
The podcast. Shout out to Rocked On Detroit Lions, man. My pride.